Good morning. Welcome to the hearing of the Joint Committees on Energy and Environmental Protection and Water and Land. It is Thursday, March 16th, 9 a.m. We are in room 325. And first up on the agenda today is Senate Bill 426 relating to cesspools. This implements the recommendation of the cesspool conversion working group to accelerate the dates for required upgrades, conversions, or connections of priority level 1 and 2 cesspools. And first up to testify is Department of Health.
Good morning, chairs, vice chairs, and committee members. Signa Pruder with the Department of Health. We actually stand by our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have DLNR.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, committee member. Laura Ka'akua with the Department of Land and Natural Resources. The department supports this bill, and we support acceleration of upgrades for identified high priority cesspools that could pose the largest threat to the aquatic resources. We also appreciate the amendment in Senate Draft 2 that allows for a grace period of 5 years until 2035 for compliance in the Koke'e Waimea Canyon State Parks area. Mahalo.
Thank you. And then Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority.
Good morning, we stand on support.
Thank you. State of Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission in support. University of Hawaii on Zoom, Melanie Lander.
Good morning, Melanie Lander for the University of Hawaii Sea Grant College Program and Water Resources Research Center. We stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hawaii Realtors with comments.
Good morning, Lindsay Garcia from Hawaii Realtors. We stand on our comments.
Thank you. And we have Melody Aduha, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. Surfrider Foundation, Hawaii in support. PASS, Public Access to Sunscreens, Lynn Miyahara in support. Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition.
Good morning, Chair Lowen, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Cochran, Vice Chair Poipoi. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. We are in strong support of this measure. I personally have worked on cesspools now for over a decade. I was a Deputy Attorney General representing the Department of Health for 15 years. And I was on the cesspool conversion working group, as you know, for 4 years. It's almost reunion day here with some of the people who served on that. That group was appointed by the legislature, and over the last 4 years, it gathered new scientific and policy data, studies by wastewater experts, activities in other jurisdictions, owners' ability to pay, financing mechanisms, and the latest technologies for treating wastewater. All this is necessary for us to move ahead on what is a very important agenda for the state of Hawaii, which is to eliminate especially the most polluting cesspools. And the key recommendation, I think, of the working group was to accelerate some of the cesspools, about a third of them, for earlier upgrades rather than the 2050 deadline. We have 13,000 priority 1 cesspools that will be upgraded by 2030 and another 12,000 some by 2035. This is really important for getting rid of the most polluting cesspools. So this bill is, as I say, the key one, I think, for the working group. I hope that the committee will pass it. I'm available for questions. And thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Ulupono Initiative in support, and the Coral Reef Alliance in support, and VI, Wastewater Alternatives and Innovation, Stuart Coleman on Zoom.
Yes, good morning, chairs and vice chairs. Stuart Coleman, the Executive Director of VI, Wastewater Alternatives and Innovations. And as my partner in crime, Ted Boland, has said, we've been working on this issue for 10 years and worked with Rep. Lowen on the cesspool conversion working group. And this was one of our top 3 priorities, to not only to make sure that we convert the cesspools in the worst areas in priority 1 and 2 in a more timely manner to prevent the destruction of coral reefs, but also just because logistically it's the only way we'll achieve our goal to convert all cesspools, because if we try to do it all in one date in 2050, it will never happen. So it's just also very practical way to help us get started with those cesspools that need to be converted the most. But I'll stand on the rest of my testimony and be available for questions afterward. Mahalo.
Thank you. And then going to individual testimony, there's Austin Salcedo.
Hello all. My name is Austin Salcedo. I'm in strong opposition of this Senate Bill 426. Page 2 of the Hawaii Realtors had a significant study, analysis done. 97% of Hawaii, all Hawaii, because this is not only just a small portion of biasly decided on analysis, as was spoken about the Surf Rider Foundation, their study, but the comments made by Hawaii Realtors that 97% cannot afford to upgrade the cesspool. And furthermore, this would force, by having this thing adopted, it will force the city and county mayors, all islands, to coerce individual landowners to make bank loans. Knowingly they cannot afford it, to pay it, more so if they're retired and living on a fixed income, it's going to set an emotional stress upon them, for the landowners, because a septic system just to upgrade is $30,000 to $50,000. Who has that in their pockets? Especially if you're retired and living on a set income, trying to afford the food, their medications, and basically our rising utility bills as well too. So the median price that this set up for this conversion thing, a lot of homeowners live on 1/3 of the median price that's listed here as evaluated. And also, under this 426, they speak about upgrade of cesspools following the upgraded or converted to the director's approved under Chapter 32 under Hawaii Revised Statutes. That's under Act 125. That actually conflicts with the Chapter 62 of Title 11, Hawaii Administrative Rules, that doesn't exempt or give safeguards for anybody who has a septic system installed, like I do, up in Makaha Valley. And if a sewer system comes through our area, like in Upper Jade Street in Makaha, they are forced to hook up to the wastewater system, although their property is 1 acre plus. So there's a conflict here. And is there an amendment in the Title 11 that's going to dictate this? Because it's not any added insertion into the Chapter 62 of Title 11 of this type of a ruling to safeguard landowners who have upgraded system. And more so, we didn't even have any kind of tax exemption to even install it. We just became law-abiding citizens, had a Department of Health engineer come to our property and tell us, you need to upgrade. Okay, sir, we did it. I just did it by being a law-abiding citizen. No tax exemptions. We're biasly not allowed. Only individuals in Kahalu was given a tax exemptions. It was not equally shared. And that was like about 12 years ago it occurred. So, and also, I'd like to say that additional bills that's related to this, that they're coming up the pipes, like SB 777, SB 285, it's only going to create a money bucket for other entities to be making money on our state. That should also be cease and desist. But this whole entirely, it will create a significant financial burden and hardship upon all landowners of all islands. In Makaha Valley, I would say the whole coastline from Nanakuli all the way to Makaha is all red zone. So I don't know if it's defined as priority 1 or priority 2. So the entire up in the valley, that's about more than 3/4 of a mile up. That's all red zone as well to identify it. And the significant facts that was provided by Surf Rider Foundation, I think is inconclusive scientific factors, because you have all the commercial golf courses and all that, and our streams that's leading to our oceans that's emitting pathogens. I don't know if it's called nitrates, or even our sugar canes that goes into our streams, storm drains, that emits dioxins from long past historical. That was not covered on their stats, on their investigation. So it was basically decided upon. So I asked for this committee to squash this measure, cease and desist. No further discussion on this matter, because it's not in the best interest of the people. And our representatives for our area did not disclose any information to the community. We were not informed. It was just through the grapevine. So I'm very disappointed on them. And he's supposed to be sitting here. He's not here present. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And then there's Gina Salcedo on Zoom.
Aloha. I'm hope you folks can hear me. I'm Gina Salcedo. I also opposed Bill 426 because if they had done things right and did a study, then the people would have been prepared. But putting a carriage before the horse, and this, it's unacceptable because it's negative impacting the whole community, the whole islands. And I really hope and, I hope that our committee and the chairperson understand and hear the people, because we are not nonprofit organizations. A lot of these studies was done by nonprofit organizations, and no collaboration for the homeowners. I'm just stoked and shocked in how things has been introduced, and our community residents was not aware of anything. There's no collaboration that's been going on towards our neighborhood board, and we've been asking for more information on town hall meetings. We haven't been getting that. And now a lot of our already aging kupunas that's retired, they're stressing out. They're stressing out, they're hearing all this, and then they're finding out, they get an email saying, it has to upgrade. This is an emotional stress that's added up on our district area. That's the lowest income that we can have. All of a sudden, they want to go ahead and, push things in the front and giving people no choice, homeowners no choice. Similar, you forced to do it to pay the piper, or else face the consequences. That's unacceptable behavior. That's government bullying, and they also have to remember, this thing passes through, you're looking at a huge lawsuit towards the city and the state, because the homeowners is going to stand. This is a class action lawsuit about to happen because of nonprofit organizations pushing this for the benefit of their pockets. That's not Hawaii. We say that's not pono. That is pilau. That is dirty style. Collaboration is very important. The old days we always said, you sit down, you talk things out. Don't be the voice for everyone. Nonprofit organization, we homeowners did not give them to be our voice, to push us out of our own lands, our homes, causing more emotional stress, hardship. And a lot of them, we don't want to even make loans for it. We cannot even afford. Under fixed income, less than 46,000, or some of them 46,000 a year. Come on. Where's the collaboration? That's all we asking. Where is the collaboration? Aloha is part of a collaboration, but in this system, what's going on? Ole. One-sided. Money bucket. Gentrification. That's all I have to say, and I hope you folks listen, because this is not just a one-time meeting. This has to be heard. Town halls has to be called, and the integrity, honesty of legislatures has to be held accountable. You can't lie to your own community and not announce things or introduce things and then we find out later. That's all I have to say, and I appreciate for you folks giving the time, and I'm against this bill.
All right, thank
It
you.
needs to be shot. I thank you folks all for your time.
Thank you. And next up is Matthew Geyer, in person, not present. And then we have Connie Victor, not present, and Emily Alvai, not present. And then we have additional 7 individual testimonies submitted in support and 3 in opposition. Is there anyone else here to testify on this that we missed? First up, we'll call Roger and then this gentleman after.
Thank you, Chair. Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services, City and County of Honolulu. We're in support of the bill, but I did want to offer a comment for the gentleman from Makaha. So there is a concern that some folks who have already upgraded, and then the city is going to be sewering some areas, and we have some large sewering projects that are underway. In 2020, the City Council passed an ordinance which gives relief to folks who have already upgraded and have an acceptable system in place, and yet will be required to hook up to sewers if we bring them there. We currently don't have plans to bring sewers to Makaha, but we are bringing them to other places. The relief that provides is that the homeowner will have to connect and close down their existing on-site system, even if it is an acceptable cesspool or something like that, because ordinance says you have to connect. However, the relief that they get is that they don't have to pay sewer fees for 25 years. So they could essentially kind of recover their costs. So I just wanted to point that out as important information.
Great.
Thank you.
And this gentleman, please come forward.
Oh, thank you. My name is Ken Suiso, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to. It's the first time I participated in coming, but this is such an issue that I felt compelled to testify and give my opinions. I think clean water and oceans is a goal that's shared by everyone. Okay. However, SB 426 will seriously impact local homeowners and farmers. Okay. It appears this legislation, I've never been involved in this. When I found out why is this thing accelerated, I started looking through it, and it kind of appalled. I was kind of appalled by what I found or what I suspect. Okay. It appears this legislation was drafted to benefit of special interests. The acceleration of cesspool conversion by 2030 is unreasonable. Okay. The intended and unintended consequences are as follows. Okay. First of all, there was no outreach to landowners as required by Act 132 objectives of the cesspool conversion group. They're supposed to come out and have so that landowners would know. This was done very, the average person is out there going to work, cleaning their yard, being with their family. They're not monitoring the legislation shenanigans that goes on, and I use that in an endearing manner. We're going about our lives, okay? Okay. The conversion of cesspools will severely financially burden cesspool owners. Each site it could be as high as $50,000. So you're talking of hundreds of millions of dollars statewide of impact to citizens of Hawaii in a time when we're facing potentially recession and negative impact. It's bad on bad, okay? It's particularly, as was mentioned, burdensome to those on fixed incomes. It will force many local families to sell their land, especially those in a lot of the areas that were in priority 1, okay? The Department of Health's conversion working group makeup was flawed. when I read 132, it says make up all the people on this conversion working group. They have all these different people on there, but no one represents the small landowner. Why not a Mrs. Salcido on that working group? You have all these special interests that knows how the game is played, and they're all in there. There was no one on there that would have voiced these opinions. We wouldn't have this, because if they worked together and had that set up right with the right representation, they would have potentially worked through all that. And you would have a product that would meet most people's needs, at least come to some compromise. That
Sir, if you
did
could
not
just
happen
address
here.
the committee.
What was that?
Sir, if you could just address the committee.
Okay.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Sorry. Okay. Okay, I also have concerns of conflict of interest. Okay. The DOH cesspool working group committee member is Stuart Coleman, is listed as a required representative from the Surfrider Foundation. Okay. It's a California-based organization. However, he is also the executive director of Wastewater Alternatives Innovation. It appears that wastewater alternative innovations will greatly benefit from the passage of SB 426. So we have someone on a committee that benefits their organization, okay? The selection of priorities for 1, 2, and 3 required the conversion of cesspools is inconsistent and arbitrary. And it was mentioned, easily you can make an argument based on federal and state civil rights of the particular areas, particularly area 1 violates the anti-discrimination laws. That argument can be made. SB 426 will increase price of housing statewide. In already the most expensive state for real estate, we're putting pressure to raise those prices, okay? SB 426 will increase homelessness because the less homes that are built, because of all this money that has to go into this, it's going to increase homelessness, okay? Okay, having arbitrary deadlines to convert test pools probably prior to approved solutions and programs in place is a recipe for disaster. What we're doing is putting a deadline without the solutions in place already, the programs, the plans, and everything. That's what that working group should have done. You put a goal, you should have the solutions that can be implemented. Poorly thought out and will be terribly, and it will cause chaos in the end, okay? Okay, do not bow to special interests of developers, big business, EIC, the environmental industrial complex. Reject SB 426 and put Hawaii's struggling families and farmers before special interests and their lobbyists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. All right, I believe that's all the testimony we have. Members, any questions? Rep. Morikawa.
Of course. First of all, my question is for DLNR, just regarding the cabins up in Kokei. On the conversion, are you guys going to pay for that yourselves, or are the lease holders expected to pay for that?
Sorry.
The conversion of the Kokei cabins? I think,
Oh, yes.
yeah. Thank you, Alan.
Good morning, chairs, members, and Rep. Morikawa. The present situation is with the 2050, as it currently is in statute, we had intended to have the conversions occur in the next 20-year lease period, which would start between 2029 and 2031, which is why we were asking for this 5-year grace period. Because if there was an expiration of leases right at the time or right before the time they had to be converted, people are going to walk away from those leases and default on them in the very end.
Right.
So we do not presently have money to pay for the conversion ourselves, which is estimated to be about $5 million. And so we thought we would front load the next lease period with most likely a 4 to 5 year grace period, right, for them, the lessees, to install
To
them at
convert.
the beginning of that lease period.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay.
A second question, I guess for Department of Health. When the county, I see the counties were in the working group, and this is basically their problem, right? Not their problem, but it's for them to decide where they're gonna hook up and whatever. If they had the wastewater treatment plant to hook up to, and they were to expand, how much would it cost the homeowner if the line went right past their property?
For connection to
Yeah.
the line, well, the county would actually have to put like a lateral, but it could cost probably between, it depends, probably between 10,000 to 20,000, just for
to
them.
hook up?
Just for them to hook up, yeah.
God, that's expensive. Because isn't it just a line that goes from their property or their house to that connection?
Yeah, but then I guess the bigger your property is,
The longer
you know,
the
the longer
pipe.
the run is. I mean, but you know, there's like a lot of costs involved, right? Because they gotta hire an engineer, you know, like a licensed engineer to do the plans, you know, not an architect, but then
Because it's just
do a
digging a pipe.
Well, I know
right?
we all think that it's like so cheap, and then you get permitting, right? But yeah, it could cost. I've seen. I mean, I was surprised, but yeah, I mean, low end is like 10,000.
That's expensive, because I just got a plea from someone on Kauai County who says they need to hook up, they need to do something because their cesspool obviously is not working any longer. So they have to pump it out very often, but they don't know if they want to invest the $40,000 into that septic system, or if they should wait for the county because they're really close to a place where the county can hook them up.
Yeah. So like because like the Department of Health also administers like the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. So if they were to actually take out a loan to extend their sewer lines, they actually could even put in the, incorporate the cost into installing the pipeline, you know, for connection. So that actually could be covered under like that low interest loan. And we also provide principal forgiveness, which is in the form of a grant. So, you know, if you ask me if they were to do that, you know, they actually should extend the line, but also include the costs, you know, for connection, you know, to the homeowners without having the homeowners actually provide out of pocket for connection to the sewer
Okay,
system.
and do you know, this sewer becomes a utility like water, electricity. Do you know about how much a household might pay monthly for the sewage utility?
It varies.
I know on Kauai I pay 120 or so.
Yeah.
But if more people hooked up, you would assume that the share would go around across more residents, so it wouldn't be as expensive. You would think, no?
I think Roger would be able to answer that question.
Rogers with City and County?
Yeah, he's with the
Yeah,
city,
and
so
and
yeah,
thank you
he's
for
with the
being
city.
here,
Yeah.
because, you know, I haven't seen the county at these hearings except for today. And I assume that all the counties are in this conversation, right?
Yeah, thanks. Roger Babcock, Department of Environmental Services, City and County, Honolulu. There were representatives of all the counties' wastewater departments, our counterparts, on the cesspool advisory
Right?
working group. In terms of the sewer fees, our sewer fees are actually very similar to what you mentioned for Kauai, average $120 to $150 a month. And I'm not sure, Maui and Big Island are a little different.
Would that go down, though, if you had more people hook up?
Well, in City and County, Honolulu, not everyone is going to hook up.
Right, but they'll pay whatever it costs to just have the line there.
Right. So that's assuming that we were going to bring sewers to everyone, which is
Right.
definitely not the case.
Right.
On this island, there's about 10 or 11,000 cesspools. We're in the process of bringing sewers in Eva Beach to about 979
Yes.
units. That's a $50 million project budgeted for this year. Those people will have to connect at their own expense. So we bring the sewer line in the road, we bring the laterals up to the property line, and then we're not allowed to do any improvements on private property. So the connection would
you.
have to be made at their expense. And then After that, they would start to receive a sewer bill.
Okay, and I can understand where these bigger property owners or people that are way far away from a possible sewer hookup could not do that. But thank you.
Great. Other questions, members? Rep. Ward.
Thank you, Chair. For DLNR, please. How long have we known about this issue of the 88,000 cesspools? And why are we doing something now so drastic? Who's the historian who's the cesspool historian? Is there, or you, you're designated?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I mean, we've known about this for how many decades?
So actually, in year 2000, cesspools were actually banned in most of the islands except for the
For
big
new
island.
ones though, right?
For new
Yeah,
ones.
exactly.
And I think from that point, there wasn't 2000. Sorry, it was 1991. Okay, 1991. So I think from 1991, like the Department of Health has been trying to eliminate cesspools, new ones. So you start eliminating new cesspools, and then you go and try to do, attack the existing cesspools.
30 years later.
Okay, but there was opposition from the Big Island because in 1991, we tried to make it where all cesspools were banned, but there was pushback, from the county of Hawaii where, they were exempt and they kept on putting new cesspools in. And that's why they have like 50,000 plus cesspools, compared to the neighbor islands. And it wasn't until 2016 where the Department of Health was finally able to ban new cesspools statewide. So, you see from 1991 to 2016, right, there was just more cesspools being constructed. And then another thing too, it wasn't until 2009 when the University of Hawaii actually did studies to show the impacts of cesspools statewide, that shows how, you have how you have the nitrates and also the pathogens and how it impacts both our drinking waters and our waters that we swim in.
So when we found out how bad it was, we said we're going to speed it up. I mean, otherwise.
Okay. I worked here. I worked at the Department of Health for 29 years. And I was actually like an inspector. Coming in, and I knew 29 years ago when I knew what a cesspool was, I knew that it was bad because it was just a cesspool. It was just a hole in the ground where raw sewage goes in and it goes out. It mixes with groundwater, and if you're close to the ocean and you have people swimming in the ocean, they could be impacted, right? I was just appalled by that 29 years ago. But, it's just really hard to pass any kind of laws, to ban cesspools or try to even get them upgraded, only because, again, the concern is the cost.
A couple of
right?
numbers. How many cesspool number 1 category are there?
Rep. Ward, can you?
What?
No, go ahead, but just keep in mind we're
Yeah.
we need to
So
move
there's
forward
like
to the next bill
12,000.
soon.
12,000, priority one.
I've got farmers in the back of Hawaii Kai who are going to be charged $25,000 to $35,000, and they're saying, hey, my lease expires in 1 to 2 years. What's with this stuff? And that, which is part of where I'm going in my questioning. In the Kauai example, for those who are on leasehold, was there any EPA fines to them because they're behind on their conversions? The point is, Bishop Estate Kamehameha Schools is fining the farmers in Hawaii Kai for something that happened in the 90s, of which now they're saying you farmers who are leaving in 2 years are going to have to pay it.
Yeah, but that one is actually the large capacity cesspool.
Which they debate because they're
that's
residential.
Environmental Protection Agency in 2005. They banned large capacity
Well,
cesspools.
they debated, it's not really large. These farmers
Yeah.
are just
But,
old
that's,
people with a
that's
few
Environmental
acres.
Protection
Yeah,
Agency.
it's federal
Yeah,
law.
okay,
It's
they,
federal
yeah,
law.
they can't fight it, but the way they put them in large, it's not large, it's small. But the point is, how many number 1 category cesspools are there? How many number 2
So
category
there's
cesspools?
about 12,500 category 1, and then like 13,500.
Okay, how many of those are on the beach in category 1?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to, but most of them are.
But
I
we
would
sh-
say 90% are on the beach.
There are, you said 12,000 category 1?
12,000 category
And
one.
9,000 of those are on the beach?
Yeah, I mean, actually, if you look at the map, mostly all of them are there on the beach. Yeah.
And now we're waking up to that fact that, oh my God, you got water that's going to be polluted right on
Well,
the beach? I mean,
Better to
duh.
start
I mean,
now than wait 30 years from now, right? So, I mean, we have to start somewhere. We have to start, like, you probably should have started 30 years ago. But, you know, if we start today and try to do it, we're trying to protect we're trying to protect our future, our kids, the coral reef. There's like a lot, but we need to start. And, we can't just talk about it. There needs to be action.
What if there was a funding program to help some of these people out?
I think that
Which
would
in
really
other
help,
bills, That would be
Yeah.
very helpful. Okay, thank you very much. This is a
Thank
very
you.
frustrating position.
Hey, Asina, quick question before we move on. The bill currently has the ability for DOH to grant exemptions based on certain provisions. And I'm wondering if that should include, so like small lot size, steep topography, like kind of topographical provisions, but do you think it would make sense to add a provision for DOH to be able to grant an exemption or extension based on if we know there's a plan to sewer the area?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
Okay, and then the second question is we were already thinking about adding in a provision to allow Department of Health to grant extensions of up to 5 years at a time based on demonstration of financial inability to pay for the cesspool conversion. And that way, we would still have something in law to move action forward, but we would be focusing in more on people who can afford it.
Yeah,
Do you
actually,
think
we
that's
would
something-
support that. Yeah, we would support that. If they can show to us, demonstrate that, they can't afford to pay for it, they should be granted an extension or an exemption until such point where there probably might be financial like grants or something provided by the state or county, but I think
And the grant
that's-
program that we passed last year opened for applications yesterday, is that correct?
Yeah, and then actually we had like a lot of people really interested in it. We can give up to 225 grants. Just looking at the applications, I think within 2 days, we're probably gonna get to 225, grants, but there's still, that means already there's a lot of people that's interested, in, at least some kind of, subsidy, in a grant, form of a grant. Income tax credit is good for people who are more wealthier, but not for retirees or people who don't have the income. But yeah, I was just surprised because a lot of them were actually grateful that there was some kind of grant that was available for their upgrades.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, members?
Excellent.
If not, we are going to move on.
Excellent
Therefore,
idea. No, excellent idea, Chair. I think effective immediately, probably.
And moving forward, because we do have to get through bills on the agenda. We have a second agenda after this, and then Chair Ichiyama has another agenda for just her committee. So we're going to go ahead and institute a 2-minute time limit on testimony. And if you did submit written testimony, request that you stand on your written testimony so that we can continue to move forward through the agenda in a timely way. So moving on, next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 428. This is the bill just requiring each county to do an updated comprehensive integrated wastewater management plan and financial strategy. And first up to testify, we have Department of Health.
We stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. And then University of Hawaii on Zoom, Melanie Lander.
Aloha, we also stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
And Hawaii Realtors.
Thank you. We stand on our testimony in strong support.
Thank you. And then we have written testimony and support from Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, from Public Access to Sunscreen, from Ulupono Initiative, Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. We have comments from Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. Let's see, there is VI, Wastewater Alternatives and Innovation, Stuart on Zoom.
Hi, chairs. We stand upon our testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then we have additional 4 testimonies, all in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? Please come forward.
Thank you, Chair. Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services, City and County of Honolulu. We didn't submit written testimony, but we do support this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else here to testify on this? If not members, any questions? All right, if not, we will move on to next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 285 relating to wastewater systems. This establishes a new technology demonstration pilot program within UH and then adds positions to Department of Health as well. And first up to testify, we have Department of Health.
We stand by written testimony and strong support of this mission.
Thank you. And University of Hawaii, Thomas Glambaluka, in support on Zoom, not present.
I'm Christopher Schuler, testifying for Thomas Giambaluca and Darren Lerner and the University of Hawaii. Good morning, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. I'm the Water Quality and Wastewater Systems Researcher with the Water Resources Research Center. I'm here to stand on the University of Hawaii's written testimony in strong support of SB 285. I'm available to answer questions about the bill, and I do want to raise one very important point about this bill, is that if this project is funded, it would be focused on developing cost-effective technology that considers Hawaii's unique situation to develop new systems to save homeowners money. And that's what this bill will be about. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thanks so much. Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Thank you. Hawaii Realtors.
Thank you. We stand on our testimony and support.
Thanks. Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. You have my written testimony. I will largely stand on that, but I did want to highlight one suggested amendment that we make in our testimony, and this is relating to an important recommendation of the cesspool conversion working group based on experience in other states, that it's important to have a program for outreach and education so that people can understand what's going on. And I've heard testimony this morning about how some people didn't know what's going on. This would be part of how we would enable people to find out what's going on, when their cesspools need to be upgraded, and where they can go for financial assistance. Financial assistance is a very important part of this program. I hope we've got a lot of federal money, state money, county money, private money, so that so much doesn't fall on the homeowners. But I would like the committees to consider our proposed amendments on outreach and education. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Available for questions.
Thank you. And Vi on Zoom.
Hi, chairs and committee members. Stuart Coleman from VI, and we stand on our written testimony in strong support.
Thank you. And then we also have written testimony submitted in support from Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Public Access to Sunscreen, Ulupono Initiative, the Coral Reef Alliance, and 2 additional individuals in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not members, any questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to Senate Bill 777. Again, relating to cesspools, this puts in place or reinstates a income tax credit for conversion or connection of a cesspool. First up, Department of Health.
Stand on our written testimony and strong support of this mission.
Thank you. And then State of Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission in support. University of Hawaii. I have Darren Lerner, Sea Grant listed.
We stand on our testimony in support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Chair. Happy for the Department of Taxation. We stand by our written testimony and comments.
Thank you. And we have VI, Wastewater Alternatives and Innovations on Zoom.
Hi, chairs and committee members. Stuart Coleman from VI. And just to clarify, VI is a nonprofit. They will not benefit in any way from any of these bills. And we stand in strong support of this bill on our written testimony.
Thank you. And then Tom Yamachika, Tax Foundation on Zoom.
Yes, thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We do have a written testimony. I did want to note, however, that that nice woman from the Department of Health mentioned that there were low-interest loans and grants available for this type of thing. We think that is a much more efficient way of delivering aid to people who need it, primarily because you know who's going to get the help. You know how much it's going to cost, and you know what you're getting for it. And I also heard Department of Health say that an income tax credit doesn't really work so well for people who are on fixed income or with lower incomes. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this on our commentary.
Thank you. And then we have written testimony from Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii and 5 additional individuals, all in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? All right, if not, we are moving on to Senate Bill 458 relating to geothermal royalties. And this establishes the Renewable Energy Resources Development Special Fund and requires annual reports to the legislature. It reallocates some of how the royalties are distributed, including reducing the county portion. And first up to testify, we have DLNR in support.
Aloha. The department supports this measure. I did want to highlight a couple of points. The first is our requested amendment, which clarifies the obligation to OHA at 20%. And I also wanted to share that maintaining our current 50% allocation is essential to carrying out our public trust duties. DLNR is the regulator for geothermal in Hawaii, and so we bear all of the costs. And so we ask that our allocation is not diminished. And maybe one suggestion, not in our written testimony, if this, acknowledging that we are in a climate crisis and acknowledging that there's been a lot of support from the legislature for renewable energy, this may be a measure that rises to the level of rather than taking money from the regulators or from the county, it may be a measure that rises to create a new, this fund, but maybe out of general funds so that there can be renewable energy exploration. Mahalo.
Thank you. Then Hawaii State Energy Office.
Chair Lowen, members of the committee, we stand on our testimony and support, but also point out that we are sensitive to DLNR's interest in being able to maintain their funding source. We also are sensitive to the importance of having the county involved because of the importance in community benefits. But clearly, if we want to continue to keep geothermal as an important part of our energy portfolio, we need to invest more in this early stage development and test wells so that we better understand the resource and where it can be done beyond Puna. And so I thank you for your allowing me to testify. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of Hawaiian Affairs in support. Hawaii County Council, Ashley Karkowitz. In opposition, Hawaii County Council member Matt Kaneali Kleinfelder in opposition, Zendo Kern, County of Hawaii Planning Department in opposition, and then we have Servco Pacific in support, Sustainable Energy Hawaii in support, Ulupono Initiative in support, the Rubba Slipper Group with comments, Richard Ha, University of Hawaii at Manoa with comments, written comments, and then 5 additional individuals in opposition and 2 with comments. And is there, we do have someone signed up on Zoom. Is there a Leah Gauker?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Aloha. My name is Leah Gauker. I'm a grassroots community leader, a lifelong resident of Pahoa, and a teacher at my alma mater, Pahoa High and Intermediate. This bill is an existential threat to our community health and safety. Proposing to take the county's share from 30% down to 10% is amoral. It is HEVA. This is not a Pono way to go green. Our community is the most at-risk socioeconomically disadvantaged district in all of Hawaii, statistically worse by almost every measure. Historically, we've been financially neglected by decades by our state and local government. Ku'ule Kealoha, my Hanai mother, has passed her middle name onto me. It's geothermal royalties. We have spent the last decade in a concerted effort to pressure the entities that receive these royalties to actually utilize them as required by law, earmarked in our county code for the benefit of the Lower Puna community. We have a golden ticket to fund the solutions to our challenges, a multi-million-dollar consistent revenue source that is dedicated to us alone, the Lower Puna community. Through the eruption recovery process, we finally have an administration and council that is committed to use these funds for our projects, namely Puna Maka'ala. We've been working the last 5 years to develop a community-based monitoring system with a coalition of 9 Native Hawaiian nonprofits made up of lineal descendants of the Puna Makai coastline to have this community-based monitoring system with cultural education program that employs our people with dignified wages to be the eyes and ears of our land. We also have Kikalakeokeo Park that's proposed to be developed out of this fund. We currently have a security guard, the only security guard along our coastline at our public beach park, a 24-hour security guard. It costs $200,000 a year. That's being funded out of this fund. We also would like to have it, we've been working for years to develop an emergency response facility. All of this bill comes out of nowhere, essentially killing all of our plans by depleting our funding. By Honolulu politicians with no regard for ethics or respect for our community entitlements. These royalties are granted to the county because of very real public safety threat that we endure, whether it's a poison gas blowout or a pentane bomb during an eruption.
Please, thank you. Can you summarize
Wait,
the
wait,
2
please
minute?
let me finish.
I know, but we did implement a 2 minute. You can.
I understand, but please
we did
let me
implement a
finish.
2 minute time limit for all testifiers that we
Please,
announced.
Nicole, please let me finish.
Please
I
summarize.
just have a little bit more.
Please summarize.
Thank you. This is our blood money. It is the norm that any mining of public resources include reparations to the host community to mitigate the negative impacts of an industrial power plant in a residential area on our Aina. This is not a Pono way to go green. We support our state's 2050 initiatives. However, robbing the host community of the community benefits fund sets a dangerous precedent in this movement. There are public safety threats associated with power plants. Do not take this important reparation away from the host communities. That only perpetuates injustice.
Yeah, please summarize, or we're gonna have to. We hear you, and we're gonna have a chance for Q&A. So we appreciate your testimony.
Do not steal our multi-million-dollar consistent revenue source. You guys understand how important it is to have this source when we're working on repairing and healing our community.
Okay.
This valuable community asset that is in a community that needs it the most. So
Okay,
please
thank you.
do not allow this bill to pass as it is.
Thank
Do
you.
not take the 70% of the royalties.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? Rep. Ward.
Do you have anything else to say?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Nicole, the geothermal
I can only yield
exploration
you so much of my
support,
time.
the geothermal exploration that this is supporting will end up in your backyard. Hualalai is one of the main places they're looking. This bill also robs your community that you represent of their entitled benefits as well. There are other appropriate sources for green energy initiatives. Please do not kill our ability to malama our community by taking this money.
All right,
Thank
Rep.
you.
Ward, you had your question.
Yes, I have a question to DLNR, actually.
No, but we're going to do one question.
One
Other
que-
people have questions, and then we'll come back around for
Okay,
second
okay.
questions. You
I'll wait
gave
for
your
that.
question. Yeah. Other questions, members? All right, if not, I have a question. Energy office. I'm just trying to get a sense of scale in terms of community benefits, and this is obviously a little unorthodox in terms of how community benefits are normally, or more recently negotiated, let's say, in contracts. So if we're looking at share to the county, and I'm kind of going back to 2018 numbers, but I think that it's somewhere around 600,000. And I'm not quite clear if all of that is going toward a community benefit or not. There's not a lot of transparency in really what the county does with that funding, but is that $600,000 per year sort of, how does that line up with other energy projects, community benefits packages?
Well, I think that that exceeds our budget for our 7 wayfinders that do that kind of work. So, that's a pretty robust number.
Okay. And then, I guess, question for Leah on Zoom. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Do you know how much of that money that does come into the county actually gets given back to the community? Or, because I don't know if it's all of it. Do you, and
It has not, exactly, thank you. That is the jux of the last decades of work, is this money that is earmarked in our county is supposed to be for our community, and historically has funded very little.
Yeah,
That's why
I understand that. I'm asking you these questions because everyone else from the county submitted testimony but didn't show up to answer questions. I did have questions for them, but I'm just trying to figure out how to ensure your piece gets funded, but I don't know if the entire amount is actually going to Puna.
Yeah, it hasn't been, but here's the thing. So one of the nonprofits in this coalition I'm on the board of is called Pohaku Pelimaka. We just received a grant through the Puna Strong program through Kilauea Eruption Recovery, where we are writing the operations manual for this community-based monitoring program. So, and the entire thing, in working in conjunction with the eruption recovery team and our council members, is proposed in writing with explicit consent from our council and the administration that will be funded out of Puna geothermal royalties, out of the geothermal royalties for the county.
Right,
Like
okay.
all of our eruption recovery
Leah,
efforts.
this is an opportunity for me to ask questions, so if you can just answer the question. I'm just wondering, I hear you, I'm just wondering if you don't know, that's okay, we can find out from the county later, but I'm curious the actual dollar amount of the total 30% of the royalties that go to Hawaii County is actually given to the Puna district directly for community benefits.
It is by law required, but as you know,
We don't
the
know.
government doesn't always follow the law.
Okay.
That is why the community advocacy is so critical.
Got it. Okay, any further questions, members? Rep. Kahaloa.
Yes, I think this is for the Energy Office, but I am not sure. The bill doesn't describe where the special fund is going to. So I have a question of what's the background of the usage of this special fund? Who is overseeing it? Does it go to the Energy Office? That intent isn't written in the bill, so I wanted some understanding of what this fund is going to be used for.
Thank you, Representative. Good question. That was a late stage addition. We were asked to create, or actually identify a repository for the funds from the geothermal royalties. We didn't, and the Energy Office was asked to serve as the lead on that and the reception of those funds. So we said that we would set up a special fund for that purpose. We had defined it more broadly than geothermal royalties, although it would make sense to limit it to geothermal royalties. But we thought if the legislature ever had a situation like this, we could accept it. But our intent would be to flow the funds that the royalties that came to us for the exploration work at the University of Hawaii, specifically for the stated purpose of the bill. And that special fund would be able to accept all those royalties, but we would be the disbursement agent. We'd be responsible for it, and we would send it to the appropriate party.
Chair, may I ask a follow-up? And it says renewable energy special fund, so is the research going back into geothermal renewable energy, or is it left open to go into any research for renewable energy, period?
Because of the rapidity, because of the, I guess how quickly that amendment had to be written, we didn't write in the guidance that should be there, that absolutely should be there, that the geothermal, anything that's coming in from geothermal royalties should go back into geothermal. So we definitely strongly believe that ought to be very clear.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then, any further questions, members? Rep. Ward, did you have a?
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead.
DLNR. When we talk about the cost and the expenses that DLNR has regarding geothermal, what do you guys do for geothermal, or do you guys find lease areas or find geothermal and then lease it out? What do you guys do?
Representative, this is Cardi Chang. He's our chief engineer, so he can explain.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Cardi Chang, Chief Engineer for the Engineering Division of DLR. So essentially, the department is mandated to uphold the provisions of Chapter 182, which is disposition of the mineral rights. And that charge includes the regulatory aspect of geothermal. So when you talk about regulating this development, it would include the leasing of the mineral rights, the well drilling, the royalty collection and distribution, and so
You do that, or
forth.
you watch over that? I didn't get the verb that you used. The leasing and the drilling, you said that? as
Well,
you
we
do
don't
it, or
drill.
you watch over it?
We're the regulatory agency that oversees the drilling and the leasing. So if a developer comes in and wants to mine this resource, they would have to come to the Board of Land and Natural Resources to obtain a mining lease. If they want to drill wells, we oversee the well drilling operations. We issue permits for the wells. We collect the royalties and disperse the royalties to the appropriate entities such as the county and OHA and
Which
so
is
forth.
what this bill is about, dispersing the royalties. How much do you get in the old bill versus the new bill?
Well, the department gets a percentage of the total royalties collected from a developer.
How much money are we talking about in terms of royalties for geothermal? Is it big, small?
Okay, so every year it's different. It's based on the sale of electricity to the utility. So what we did over the last 15 years, instead of giving you every single year, because it fluctuates pretty broadly, in certain years where they're not producing, such as the lava event, they got zero. So we took a cumulative average over 15 years, and
Geothermal did zero?
well, the plant was shut down. The plant was shut down during the lava event, so they couldn't produce
okay, that one.
nor
Okay,
could they
yeah.
sell electricity. So that's based
Okay,
on
got it.
what we received.
In a normal year, how much would it be then?
On average, over the last 15 years, the 50% that DLR receives was 822,000. This is the 50%, so you just double that to say total 100% was about 1.6 million on average.
822,000 for a year, or average for
Average
the,
for a
the
year. That's the 50% share that DLR has received.
And this bill changing that amount from the counties, as it was indicated, 30% down to 10%? What's the logic of that?
This bill doesn't change in this current version, it doesn't change what DLR received. What it does is it reduces the county's 30% down to 10%.
Yeah, that's what's the logic of that? Oh, you just implement it. Okay.
I think the logic was we tried to reduce DLNRs last year and the bill got vetoed.
Yeah, this is kind of a different version of a turf
I recall
war.
that.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Next bill on the agenda, and okay, it's Senate Bill 781. This is kind of a permitting reform bill for residential and smaller scale commercial solar systems. So we will start with testimony from Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. Thank you. Hawaii Food Industry Association, not present.
Thank you, Chair Lowen and committee members for the opportunity to testify. My name is Lauren Zerbel on behalf of Hawaii Food Industry Association, which is a nonprofit trade association that represents retail, grocers, and food suppliers. We're in strong support of this measure. It's one of our top 3 priority issues. we recently held our annual meeting and surveyed members as to what was holding them back from pursuing increased solar and batteries, and permitting was the #1 reason cited. So this bill would be very helpful for our membership, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And then we've got Our Revolution Hawaii on Zoom in support.
Aloha, good morning. Dave Molnix, representing our 5,000 members statewide. Yes, we're totally in support of this. It's really unfortunate. Some folks have to wait up to a year to get their permits, and this will speed up that system. That's very exciting. We also ask you to reinsert Section 3 and part of Section 4 for the small retrofit projects. Thank you very much. This is going to really help expand our solar projects here in Hawaii and create more green jobs. Have a very
Thank you. And 350 Hawaii in support on Zoom.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committees. My name is Sherry Pollack, and I'm with 350 Hawaii. Thank you so much for scheduling this very important bill, and we are in strong support of this measure. And we stand on our written testimony, and we are also requesting that Sections 3 and parts of Section 4 be restored to the measure. And I just wanted to highlight that we do hear from several of our members that they need to wait up to a year for a simple permit for essentially a retrofit small project, and that's completely unacceptable. And this permitting logjam is preventing that, and the situation has really become completely unacceptable and just has to be remedied. And this bill will do that, and it will do it safely with and that everyone will benefit. And in particular, the solar app that's already been installed in other jurisdictions that will help to make this go forward. So bottom line, we need to transition to clean energy. We need to do it in earnest, and this measure will help to do that. So thank you so much for scheduling this, and please support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Solar Energy Association on Zoom.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Rocky Mold, Hawaii Solar Energy Association. We'll stand on our testimony in strong support of this measure, and I'm here to answer any questions about some amendments that we offered in our testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have Tesla in support. Noelani Derrickson. Thank you. And then we have Pacific Resource Partnership.
Aloha Chair, Chris Delaney, Pacific Resource Partnership, in strong support with an amendment which is in our written testimony.
Thank you. And Nathaniel Kinney from Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters.
Chair, Nathaniel Kinney, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. I'll keep it short because I know that was a pretty extended agenda. We just wanted to add in an inclusion of the possibility of some labor standards at the county level. One of the things that we see is the difference between a job and a career. Currently, there's a lot of green jobs, but what we would like to see is a lot of green careers, and inclusion of things like state-approved apprenticeship programs, living wages, stuff like that would turn a job into a career, and that's what's the intent of our additional language. Thank you.
Thank you. Climate Protectors Hawaii.
Climate Protectors Hawaii stands on its written testimony in strong support.
Thank you. And then have Matt Geyer signed up in person, but I think not present. And Jody Robinson, Blue Planet Foundation. And then we have additional written testimony and support from Citizens Climate Lobby, Sierra Club of Hawaii, the Hawaii Environmental Change Agents Decarbonization of Buildings Task Force, Hawaii Unified Industries LLC, Photon Works Engineering LLP, Alternate Energy Hawaii, Independent Energy Hawaii, Green Power Projects LLC, Solar Services Hawaii, Grand Solar Inc., Sun Nova, Hawaii Energy Connection, Sunrun, Hawaii Energy, Photon Works, Malama Solar, Kauai Climate Action Coalition, Fortress Power, and I think something like 40 additional individuals all in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? Rep. Ward.
For the gentleman online from the Solar Energy Association, The question is, what's the experience rating of rejection or modification of the application permitting so far? What does it look like?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. I don't think I have a number at the top of my head. I do know that when a permit goes to the manual queue, oftentimes there are a number of iterations of questions that go back and forth. And that's a lot of what takes time. I mean, even getting the initial review, the manual review takes a while, but after that, there's significant iterations with questions, and that can go on for a while. As folks have mentioned here, it takes like a year or so for a simple, over-the-counter E-plan permit to go through right now at the city and county, and it's similar at the other counties as well. But I'm sorry I don't have that exact fail rate for you. I haven't seen that number.
Mayor Blangiardi made a promise that he's going to speed that up beyond that 1 year. So you're about the same as the normal building permits, 1 year as an average.
Yeah, and that's one of our points is that there are a high number of solar permits going through the system, and they're relatively simple permits. They're simple systems. So if you can get that higher number of relatively simple systems out of the way, it will open things up for all of these other more complicated permits that are going through.
And that helps the economy and jobs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions, members? All right, if not, we're moving on to the last bill on this agenda, Senate Bill 388, relating to waste disposal facilities. And first up is Board of Water Supply.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kathy Mitchell with the Board of Water Supply, and we strongly support Senate Bill 388, and we offer a suggested amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Department of Health with comments. And City and County of Honolulu with comments.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services, City and County of Honolulu. Environmental Services is in charge of wastewater and solid waste, which means collection, disposal, H-Power, and the landfill. So we submitted some testimony, which are comments, and I have some additional comments that I'd like to offer. Landfills are their siting, their construction, their operation, their monitoring is a highly regulated activity in the United States. In 1976, the RCRA federal regulation was passed, 40 CFR 269 through 282. In addition, there are state regulations from the State Department of Health, Safe Drinking Water Branch, Clean Air Branch, Solid Waste Branch, and also the Land Use Commission. We have, in addition, there are city regulations from our Planning Commission and stormwater quality. So to have a landfill, you have to have a whole bunch of permits from all these agencies. And these permits and these rules are based on rulemaking that happened over many years. They require, and they have to do with the siting, operation, and all these other things, and monitoring and reporting. And so again, they're highly regulated, just like underground storage tanks, but unlike activities like cesspools and some aspects of the way agriculture is conducted. So the bill talks about the no-pass zone that delineates the inner part of the islands where the potable aquifer is located, and that is where potable water is located in numerous aquifers. It's not just one. There's an aquifer system that you can learn about online about all the different aquifers, and they have sustainable yields and a certain amount of water available. Everything outside of that is basically what they call cap rock, which are zones where the water is salty, it's near the coast, and it's not usable for drinking. And so if you exclude all the interior areas, then what you're left with is the exterior parts of the island near the coast. So other things that are active on the coast, of course, are beaches. We have impacts from tsunamis. We have impacts from sea level rise, and we have impacts from stormwater runoff associated with climate change, which is increasing. So if we exclude the inner areas, then we're left with the outer areas of the island. So just so you know, the way the hydrologic cycle works is the way we get water to the islands is from rain. About a third of rainfall ends up as runoff and goes into streams. A third infiltrates into the ground. But all the water that infiltrates in the ground eventually goes out into the ocean unless we extract it. So even the water that falls in the caprock goes into the ocean. So if you take the premise that a landfill is going to leak, which we don't agree with, there's all those regulations put in place to make sure that they don't leak. But if you do take the premise that it is going to leak, then you're essentially making a choice between protecting the inner part of the water or whether you're protecting the ocean water, where the caprock water would take it into the nearshore reefs, the coral, the fisheries, and our recreational waters. So those are some sort of the unintended, perhaps unintended consequences. And if you were to just sort of ban outright all landfills in the state of Hawaii, then that would be very problematic in terms of what we would do. It would mean we would have to take all of our waste somewhere else, out of the islands. And that would be very difficult. For example, the city has an ordinance that says we will not accept waste from another island or another state. And many other places are like that as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I may have questions. Then we have additional testimony from Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support, Hawaii Farm Bureau in support, Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition in support, Hawaii Firefighters Association, IBEW, and Kapolei Chamber of Commerce, and 5 additional individuals all in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? Rep. Ward.
Thank you, Chair. The gentleman, Mr. Babcock. Does this bill suggest up until now we have allowed waste, solid waste and others to be located above aquifers? And are there any in existence now? Since this bill bans them, it suggests that we've allowed it to happen? Question mark.
Yeah, most landfills, the current landfill is not above an aquifer.
Is not, you said?
It is not, yeah.
Is
There are
not.
2 existing landfills, one municipal solid waste landfill that the city owns and operates in Waimanalo Gulch, and the other one is a construction and demolition waste landfill, PVT, located in Nanakuli.
But those are solid. I mean, what about the Honolulu, the,
So,
I forget what you call those.
so those are the only 2 landfills. The city landfill is where all ash ends up from our H-Power facility, so most of our refuse is burned and turned into ash and electricity, and so that goes to the Waimanalo Gulch landfill. Only construction and demolition waste, no municipal solid waste is allowed at the PVT landfill.
So this would not include then the, what would you call them, sewage treatment plants then?
Right, it's not about sewage treatment. This would
Do
be
we have
about
any
land.
sewage treatment plants above aquifers?
We do, yes.
Are they leaking?
No, they're not leaking. And the same thing could be said for our landfill. So our landfill has been in operation since 1989. Quarterly monitoring is required of the groundwater wells in the vicinity, and it's never been found to leak.
But again, wouldn't you think that this bill should have been passed long ago? We're finally realizing, hey, don't put stuff above the aquifer, that's solid waste. That's rhetorical, actually. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Quick question. Okay, you're not seeing evidence of landfill leakage into the groundwater, but are you testing like surface water, the nearshore waters, because how can you verify there's not some leakage into those?
Yeah, so as part of a landfill, getting a permit for a landfill, adhering to all the state and federal regulations, monitoring wells are required around any landfill type operation. And so it takes into consideration which way the water flows. And so they are required to have monitoring wells in the downstream side and the upstream side, which we have. And so that's the evidence that we have.
Right, but you're not testing the nearshore water. You're testing groundwater from the monitoring wells.
That's correct. We're not
Okay.
testing your whole.
So you don't know for sure?
I don't think there's any way that it could.
There's not testing occurring.
Yeah, I don't think we could there's any way that a leak, which would be leachate, would be able to get around our monitoring wells. It has to get to the groundwater and then flow with the groundwater in
Okay.
order to get to the ocean.
Okay, Department of Health, really quick. Do you know, I mean, how many how much leachate does the landfill produce, and can you account for every gallon of it? Are you sure zero of it leaks into the environment in any way?
So in general, that's what the groundwater monitoring does. So the way the landfill is designed, it's lined, and there's a leachate collection system. So any leachate goes generally into the sumps in the landfill, and then it's pumped out. So we get numbers for that. I couldn't tell you what exactly those numbers are, but the leachate is taken out. It's required to be kept 1 foot of leachate on the liner or in the sump. And so, yeah, that's the requirement. So in general, that will prevent leachate hopefully from going through the
Okay,
liner.
but I guess I'm just, again, the question is, can you definitively say there's no leakage of leachate?
We couldn't say definitively based on that, yeah.
Okay, all right, we are under a time crunch, so if no further questions, members, we will adjourn. We'll come back for decision-making after the second joint agenda. So, or we're recess, not adjourn, we're recess.
Thank you so much. We are opening up our 9:05 agenda for water, land, and energy environmental protection. First up is SB 1066 relating to fresh water security and testimony from DLNR. Yes, we do have another 10 a.m. agenda. If you could please stand or briefly summarize.
Mahalo, Chair. The department stands on its written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Next, we have testimony from Honolulu Board of Water Supply.
Kathy Mitchell with Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And then testimony on Zoom from Mr. Michael Buck. Not present. Okay, anyone else here to testify on SB 1066? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to SB 1377. This is relating to water pollution control. First up, testimony from Department of Health.
Good morning. The Department of Health stands on our written testimony and strong support, and I'll be available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here to testify on SB 1377?
Ted Boland for Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. As I said earlier, I was the Deputy Attorney General representing the Clean Water Branch, our last speaker, for 15 years. I think this measure is very important for the ability of the Department of Health to enforce the rules. We need the additional penalties. We need the other things that are in the bill. I urge you to pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. Anyone else to testify on SB 1377? Okay, members, any questions?
Sure.
Report?
The Guardian, I forget the name of your group.
Mr. Boland?
Yes, yeah, Mr. Boland, Boland the Guardian. How impactful does this relate to Red Hill? Directly, indirectly, suggestively, or not at all?
I think the Red Hill situation is a little different. They've got underground storage tanks that are regulated under a different program. I don't recall whether this bill covers that, but in general, I think the penalties have gotten too small over the last 25 years since they've been raised, and so having high penalties would assist. Federal government at Red Hills may be a little different situation.
So you could say Red Hill did a wake-up call to get something like this.
Red Hill is a good wake-up call for a lot of things, including the need for enforcement by the Department of Health and the need for resources of the Department of Health.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you for the question.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to SB 409 relating to fire prevention. First up is DLNR.
Aloha. The department stands on our testimony and strong support. Michael Walker is here, who heads our wildfire program, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. To everybody who signed up to testify today on SB 409, anyone else who'd like to offer testimony on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to recess for decision making. Recess.
All right, we are reconvening for decision-making on the 9 a.m. agenda, Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection and Water and Land. First on the agenda, Senate Bill 426 relating to cesspools. So we are going to make some amendments here in Section 2. Under subsection C, we'll add a new provision that DOH can also create exemptions based on planned development of sewer upgrades to an area. And then we'll also add a subsection D to provide that DOH may grant extensions of up to 5 years at a time to these deadlines based on demonstration of financial inability to pay or to finance a cesspool conversion, and that they may adopt the rules to effectuate this. And then defecting the date to June 30, 3000. Members, any discussion? Rep. Ward.
Chair, I think you've made the bill much better, more palatable. I still have some reservations because some of this, I think, is our fault, having sat on our hands a bit on the science of this, this danger to our environment. So I'll be, for now, with reservations. Thank you.
Thank you. And then moving, so if no further discussion, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 426 SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Gates is excused at this time. Rep. Kahaloa?
Aye.
Rep. Peruso is also excused at this time. Rep. Woodson?
Aye.
And Rep. Ward, WR. Okay, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you. And Water and Land.
Water and Land Committee members, same recommendation. Any questions? Okay, Vice Chair with amendments.
Voting on SB 426 SD2 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Chen? Aye. Representative Gaminan? Aye. Representative Hashem?
Aye.
Representative Morikawa?
Aye.
Representative Takayama?
Aye.
Representative Souza? Aye. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members.
And Senate Bill 428, we're just going to pass out a HD1 on this, changing the defective date to 6/30/3000. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 428 SD1, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both vote aye. Noting excused absences of Reps. Gate and Ms. Peruso till end of calendar. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Water and Land.
Water and Land Committee members, same recommendation. Any questions, concerns? Okay, Vice Chair with amendments.
Voting on SB 428 SD1 with amendments. Noting all members as present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
So moving on, Senate Bill 258 on 285 relating to wastewater systems. For this, we're going to, for the section 2 of this, we're going to take the language from House Bill 180 HD1, which was more explicitly in more detail, creating a new cesspool section under Department of Health. That includes some language for the outreach and education piece already in there. We'll keep the funding source, however, as it is in this bill, which is using the Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund as opposed to general funds. And then we'll add one additional FTE engineer position, so that'll be a total of 3 FTEs. So that will be to effectuate the new cesspool section plus the part 1 of this bill, the pilot program. And then we'll defect the date to 6/30/3000. Members, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 285 SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote ayes. Any members voting with reservations? Any voting no? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you. And Senate Bill 7.
Waterline Committee? Sorry. Waterline Committee members,
Mr. Rush.
same recommendation. Any questions? Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 285 SD2 with amendments. Noting all members as present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members.
And moving on, Senate Bill 777, this is the income tax credit for cesspool conversion. We're just going to defect the date to 6/30/3000 and move forward in HD1. Members, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Chair,
Rep. Ward, go ahead.
Will the committee report suggest the range of credit amounts, 10, 20,000, or it'll still remain blank? in terms of-
You know, we can add in the report 10,000, which was what was passed in the House
Yeah,
bill.
that's probably the lower version of it, but thank
Okay,
you. for
Thank
that.
you. All right, members, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 777, SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Both Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Reps, any with reservations or any noes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Water Land Committee members, same recommendation. Any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 777 SD2 with amendments, noting all members as present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senate Bill 458 relating to geothermal royalties. So a few amendments here. We know there's some contention here. We're going to continue the discussion, but we're going to adopt the amendment suggested by DLNR to clarify OHA's portion. On page 1, lines 4 and line 17, we'll change that from renewable to geothermal. So we're just clarifying this is to be spent on geothermal energy development and not just any renewable energy. We're going to increase the county funding from 10% to 20%, or a cap of $450,000 annually, whichever is greater. And then we will provide explicitly in state law that the funds can only be spent for the relocation funding, which I think is a program that's actually already fully capitalized, or community benefits in the area surrounding geothermal plant that is paying the royalty. So although we're reducing this total percentage, I think we're actually ensuring the same, if not more, amount is actually going to go directly to the community and community benefits. And then we will require detailed annual reports to the legislature by the county outlining how the money is allocated. Additional technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and we'll defect the date to June 30, 3000, and continue the discussion on this issue. So any discussion?
Sure, just a brief comment that I think what we have on our hands is a turf war that is yet to shake out, so I know it will be ongoing in discussion, but it looks like it'll be interesting how it turns out.
Thank you.
And Chair, just, oh, sorry.
Oh, and
Chair
sorry,
Rupp.
with reservations because of that.
Got it.
Okay, and Chair, my take is the same. Yeah, and I appreciate the amendments, and it makes it a lot more palatable, so moving the discussion forward, I agree with that. So
Appreciate
with
that.
WR at this time.
Thank you.
Chair.
Chair, thank you for the amendments. The amendments really strengthen the bill, so I'm willing to keep the conversation going. But I do believe anything to do with renewable energy and geothermal, those funding should trickle down to community, stay in community, and we need to strengthen the ability for those monies to go back to Native Hawaiian communities, similar to the New Zealand model, and I'd like to see that be the main focus moving forward, but I will WR on this bill, but thank you for strengthening it.
I hear that. Thank you. Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Okay, and voting on SB 458, SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendment. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes with reservations. Any others voting with reservations? Kahaloa and Rep. Ward, both reservations. Any noes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Water Land Committee members, same recommendation. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 458 SD2 with amendments, noting all members as present, are there any noes or reservations? No from Representative Ganadin. Reservations from Representative Souza. Any more noes or reservations? Okay, recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members.
All right, moving on, Senate Bill 781. This is the permitting bill. Some amendments here on page 4, line 16. We're going to clarify that the self-certification process is for residential and commercial on-site solar distributed energy resource systems. On page 4, we'll also adopt PRP suggested amendments, so add a new subsection clarifying that the applicable government entity may promote the use of labor standards in issuing these permits. On page 5, line 5, under the self-certification provision, we'll remove electrician and add duly licensed architect and duly licensed engineer. We'll add a definition for residential distributed energy resource system, and then add a new section that provides that provisions of Chapter 464-13 shall not apply to work with respect to residential distributed energy systems. So this is basically adding back sections 3 and 4 from HB 195, HD1. And then technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and defecting the date to 633,000 members. Any discussion? Rep. Ward.
Chair, comment, any bill that speeds up the permitting process is got to be an excellent one, so I commend the chair for this
Thank
and
you.
the author.
If no further discussion, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 781, SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Both Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Are there any members with reservations? Any members voting no? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you. Waterland.
Waterland Committee members, same recommendation with amendments. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 781, SD2 with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation adopted.
Thank you.
And last bill on this agenda, Senate Bill 388 relating to waste disposal facilities. We're going to make some technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and defect the date to 633,000 and move this forward for further discussion. Members, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 388, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both vote aye. Members, are there any reservations? Are there any noes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you. Waterlands.
Waterland, same recommendation. Any questions, comments? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 388 with amendments, noting all members as present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. And we'll move.
All right, we're adjourning this hearing and going back.
Going back to the 905 joint agenda. First bill up was Senate Bill 1066, Senate Draft 2, relating to fresh water security. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 1. On page 4, we're going to add projects that increase the supply of fresh water. Defect the date, June 30th, 3,000. Technical non-substantive amendments. We're also going to add the amount of $50,000 into the committee report. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, Waterland, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Voting on SB 1066, SD2 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Chen. Representative Ganaden. Representative Hashem. Representative Morikawa. Representative Takayama. Representative Souza.
Aye.
Recommendation adopted.
Thank you.
Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection, same recommendation.
Voting on SB 1066, SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote ayes. Members, any voting with reservations? Any noes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Okay, moving next to Senate Bill 1377 relating to water pollution control. Recommendation is to defer this measure as the companion HB 1079 has already moved out of its first Senate committee. Finally, the last bill, Senate Bill 409 relating to fire prevention. The recommendation is to re-defect the date to June 30th, 3000. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Voting on SB 409, SD1 with amendments, noting all members as present. Any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members.
Adjourn? Oh, so Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection, same recommendation.
Voting on SB 409, SD1, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote ayes. Members, any reservations? Any noes? Seeing none, measure is adopted.
Thank you, members. We are adjourned. Waterland, we'll see you upstairs.
And EEP members, we got one more bill to vote on. So we are convening the 9:30 a.m. decision-making agenda.
That's what,
Committee on.
That's what I thought. I was like, I've heard that.
Committee on, guys, we're in hearing. Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection, 9:35 a.m. agenda, Thursday, March 16th. Conference room 325, we're here to vote on one measure today, Senate Bill 691, relating to efficiency standards. We're going to make some amendments to this bill as follows. Deleting the definitions for air purifier, industrial air purifier, and electric vehicle supply equipment, and removing air purifiers and electric vehicle supply equipment products from this bill for the time being. We're going to change the minimum efficiency standards for water coolers from version 3 to version 2. allow manufacturers to utilize the Home Ventilating Institute Certified Product Directory Certification Program to meet certain standards, making technical, non-substantive amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and defect the date to June 30th, 3000. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Voting on SB 691, SD2, Chair elects to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote ayes. Members, any with reservations? Any noes? Seeing none, your measure is adopted.
All right, we are adjourned.